Hi guys, welcome back to K-Pop Talks. I'm your host, and today we're gonna do the worst K-pop albums I've heard so far in 2013, which will include obviously the first 2 months of the year, January and February. This is obviously a new style video. I've released the best albums, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I dropped them. I'll drop it maybe later because I think I forgot, and then I'm gonna drop this one as well. To be fair, it's not like I've heard a lot of bad albums in any way, but I still think there was a lot of quality that was left to be desired. And I think we can get right into it immediately with first and foremost, we have Mino with Mino World. To be fair, Mino is not one of my favorite rappers already, but going into this project, I had some positive expectations because he did a lot of features this year where he varied his style. He was featured with different type of productions, different type of artists. I see him getting a little bit more comfortable in his style. But this project a little bit, made me disappointed. It's not a good project already, but the fact that out of 6-7 songs, pretty much all of them sound the same, it's not a good thing. I mean, 4 songs, it's a short EP. I always think it's more, but it's only 4 songs. But you expect a little bit more of a variety in that sense. And apart from the biggest song on the list, which is the one with Trade Out, I feel like everything else in here is too samey, and it's something that I've heard already a million times from an artist that, like I said, I think has some potential here and there, but I feel like a lot of times he just goes back to his default comfort when he doesn't know what to do. Next we have ONEWE with Gravity. Now, saying this hurts me a lot because ONEWE is actually one of my favorite groups of the last 2 or 3 years. I think 2 years ago their album was my best album of the year, if I don't remember correctly. Planet 9 Alter Ego, it's 7 tracks, all amazing, showcase an interesting, use of rock in Korea that you don't really hear a lot. But this album felt flat, felt boring, something that you already listened from this group. And normally when they release a full-length project, with 11 tracks, 40 million project, like I expect more, and I didn't get that from them. Bland, the vocals were not great, there weren't really memorable moments, even these grandiose moments that there are in the projects are not there anymore. So yeah, this was definitely another disappointment, but in a way even worse than Mino, because Mino is somebody that I didn't like already that much, but ONEWE was one of my favorite groups, and they still are, but this album is a big disappointment in that sense. Next, we have another unit from Astro, MOONBIN&SANHA with INCENSE. I had expectations because prior to this, MOONBIN&SANHA, almost everything they dropped I enjoyed. I felt they had good chemistry, their company understood where to go with the concept, they were never really that boring, even though the concept was these edgy boys, obviously, with this very classic K-pop image that you have of that concept, but they were able to play around that very, very well. And specifically, Sana is the youngest member of the group. It was interesting to see him playing with something a little bit older because he has also gotten older, so that was cool to see. But this EP was not really it. I felt the production was not that great, the vocals were underwhelming for me personally, and there was nothing really memorable about it. Again, from a unit that I enjoy, I expect that in this type of units you put more effort as a company. It's not enough to drop, a bunch of songs and expect me to think they're great anyway. I want something different, or at least I want something that shows that you came into this project. Doesn't matter if it's short or not, you're releasing it as a full project. And I expect more. To be fair, I didn't mind the madness or desire. I just feel like things like Your Day and Chop Chop, for me, there should never be in a project like this, in my opinion. Next we have Haiki with their self-titled album, Haiki. This is by far, I think, the worst thing I've heard this year compared to the expectations that I had, because Haiki is a good group. I think they legitimately are a good group. But one has to ask himself, right? You come up with interesting concepts like Athletic Girl, I feel like. You still drop different songs showcasing different styles, and then you get into this project and the production doesn't hit the way it's supposed to hit, the vocals don't hit the way they're supposed to hit. It feels very disjointed, even as a small project. It's a very short project. I don't think it's even 20 minutes. It is 20 minutes perfectly. So it's a very short project to the point, but normally some projects should hit very, very hard. Instead, you get nothing. As much as I like to criticize Blackpink, even though in the past they released not a lot of music, but their short EPs were straight to the point, and at least they were memorable to the listen, even if you didn't go into it loving them per se. So in that sense, I you know, to me, this is the worst listen I've had this year. And don't get me wrong, there were things that I listened that I didn't like a little bit more than this, but compared to expectations, because it's one thing to be like, oh, I listened to the Primrose album, I was whatever, right? But when you listen to Haiki, and I thought Haiki was one of the rookies of last year, I think starting the year like this, it's not a good sign for a young group, in my opinion. But they will have support. I mean, you know, they'll do well in the future. I don't doubt that at all. I think. Next we have 8 Turn with 8 Turn Rise. It's boring, it's bland, it's generic as fuck. There's the same problem that there is in the single for this project, where the mixing is not that great. To be fair, I think if I have to give them one positive, I think the hip hop part of these songs are normally enjoyable, but for the rest, I think it's rather forgettable. I think for a group, like I said, that at this point has been around for some time, they've not been around for that long, you cannot drop an EP this bland and this generic in a sense. Bring something different, you know? Bring something a little bit more spicy, you know? Don't just like be scared of trying, because in this industry, why would I listen to 8 Turn doing this style when I could listen to Monsta X, or I could listen to Astro, or I could listen to other groups that have dealt with this type of concepts in the past? Why? There's no reason to. Even if you're a new K-pop fan, there will be no reason for you to listen to these groups. It's just the reality. And last but not least is TNX, Love Never Dies. Now, TNX is a group that I like, another group that I enjoy. I listened to their single, didn't like it at all. Went to this project, said, you know what, let's get into that with a clear mind. Let's not get into it with like a negative attitude or anything like that. If already didn't think Love or Die was a good song, but at least, you know, it was well produced. The vocals were quality, objectively, and everything else. The rest of the project doesn't feel that different. Almost all the songs have the same progression. Almost all the song structures and the way the vocals and the different section of the song happen, it's pretty much the same. It's probably similar to Blackpink in that sense, where you already know the structure of the song every single time you get into it, you know. So for TNX, I'm a little bit disappointed, you know, because in my opinion, as I said, I've listened to Way Up last year. I thought it was relatively okay. It wasn't bad anything, but you know, at least the Move was a very good single in my opinion. The rest was okay. This year, I think it's a big step down in terms of interest for me already, because when did Way Up came out? Came out in May, so it came out pretty much a year ago. You know, if a year ago I gave it a chance and I was like, you know what, you're a new group, whatever. Now, a year later, I'm like, where is the evolution? Where is the style improvement? Where is the originality coming into the equation? And there's none of that in this project at all. Simple as that. And this was it for the worst K-pop albums I've heard. There isn't that many. That's a really good sign. I've listened to almost everything. There isn't something that I look at my library and I think I haven't listened to. That, like, because even Minion Project or Park Jin, like, I thought they were fine. Oh, actually I forgot one, now that I think about it. It's actually Big Naughty with Hopeless Romantic. Now, is this album objectively bad? No, I don't think so. You know, this is already a style that Big Naughty did last year with an entire full-length project that I thought was interesting, that I thought had a little bit of flavor, which was Nangman. I thought it was interesting, it was different for Big Naughty. But this one is, I think, from a production standpoint, worse. Like, it's too bland, it's too ethereal, not in a good way. The vocals of his, this whispery style of making music, it's fun for a song or two. It gets pretty hard to follow 7 songs into it. The features are a positive, I can't say they're not, but I feel like even the concepts of the song really are left to be desired. They're simplistic, they're not interesting. While last year, I feel like, even though if you look at Gangnam, right, listen to something like Roman Symphony, you know, it's a little bit out there. It's not for everybody, but at least he was trying something different. Even Lovey Dovey with Meanwhile, I'm not the big fan of this song. He tried something different. Poker, right? There was some interesting Actor with PH1. Do You Believe in Romance, right? There were interesting variations of concepts with his own twist. I feel like Hopeless Romantic is the classic step that an artist does when he goes into alternative, where I think that to be alternative, in order to be alternative, they actually end up losing that bit of originality and that like edge they had when they were less alternative, you know. So this is another underwhelming project for me. It is not a good project, but if I had to scale from 1 to 10, I think it will be a 4.5, because while there is some positive elements, I can't say there isn't. I think the negative outweighs the project the goods, and in a project with the vocals have an important part. You have to put more effort, you have to bring more quality, you have to be better, and the lyrics definitely also leave to be desired, where I felt like with his previous project he was saying something interesting, not incredible, but he was saying at least interesting stuff. Here he reverted, so it's a huge step down also for Big Naughty in that sense. And this was it for now, really, because I forgot about it with my worst albums. There wasn't that many that I felt like were terrible. There was a lot of projects that were mediocre, to be fair, but not enough to me be like, oh man, this is terrible, what am I listening? A lot of it was fine. A lot of it was, it is what it is, it's cool, not like, you know, it's, yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's not amazing or anything. So yeah, this is my list. Let me tell you, do you agree with this? Do you have other albums that you enjoy this start of 2023? Let me know in the comments and see you next video.